C-Red Nation, what's good? It's your boy P Kid, running it back with another video, man. Listen, if you haven't been living under a rock, P Kid, Windy City Breeze, talk Chicago sports at Chicago Talks. Let's get into it, man. Can the Chicago Bulls still make a deep playoff run, or should they just hang it up? Let's talk about it. Listen, this video is being made coming off the back of the Clippers' loss. One of the more interesting losses, and it actually, I have to be honest with you, this is one of those losses that makes me really look at the team. It's like, man, I know it's a back to back, but we really can't use that as an excuse at this point because we've kind of pushed us in a situation where we need every game. But it's the way that we kind of lost it. It's the way that at certain times it just we seemed a little lost. It's the way that the others didn't step in and step up. And that's really what this video is going to be about. If we're going to make a strong push, we need help from the others and not just every so often, not every other game, not maybe when you're in a lineup, maybe not. Consistent help from our others. And who are our others? We're going to highlight a few of them. We're even going to look at the rest of the schedule. Again, let's get into it, man. Listen, the loss to the Clippers showed you one of the things that we do not have, and that's really good depth and at times really good shooters. Mind you, the Bulls lost double digits, but we didn't shoot bad overall from the field. We just didn't really shoot that great from three. And at times we didn't make the right defensive adjustments. In fact, I saw Nicholas Batum with nothing but time and space to sit there and just say, okay, let me calculate this shot. Yeah, that's gonna go, man. I saw Eric Gordon sit there and shake Zach out his New Balances multiple times and say, "Yep, I'm gonna just line this up right here." Bam! Like those plays are like, okay, Eric Gordon crossing Zach, cool. He cooked Zach. Hey, let's be real, he cooked Zach. Those plays, cool. But the wide open shots, come on now. Now, don't get me wrong. There were a lot of good defensive segments. And this is the difference between really good teams and really, and let's just say decent teams when it comes to the NBA and professional play. It's all about who makes the right moves and executes the best in certain situations. If you really look at any NBA game, a lot of teams start off neck and neck, neck and neck, neck and neck. But then you start seeing things that crack the game wide open. Small mistake here. No one rotates. Wide open three. Cool. Another mistake. So no one fights over the screen. Cool. Wide open three. You see that a lot with elite teams. It's like, hey, things will go well, and then all of a sudden, boom, it's a 10-point lead. How did that happen? It's because they're executing at a higher level than the other team. Right now, we saw the Clippers, even without Paul George, even without Norman Powell, who was a guaranteed bucket, with their others, execute better. Their game plan was better. Billy, you can't. I don't want to say Billy was out coached because at the same time, Ty Lue does have better personnel. Even without those stars available, he still has Russell Westbrook. He still has a Kawhi Leonard. Those two enough compete with our stars, hands down. And they have other people to come in and fill in certain spots. They are just a really deep team of people who can straight out shoot and hoop. They are a good team. In fact, if they don't win a championship soon, it's going to be more of a mark on them than anything else because of the type of talent they have. So losing to a team like that shouldn't make it seem doom and gloom. It's just a simple fact that we're losing to this team when we need those games. Now, I want to take a step back and say this. We are still 7-3 over the last 10. We are still seeing a lot of improvement. However, when you have situations where you're battling for a playoff spot, you do need not just your stars to show up, not just Zach, who's been averaging 32 up until last night over the last couple games, not DeMar, who's come in and start shooting more threes. Y'all notice that? LeBron shooting more threes? Not just Vooch, who's sitting there still being a double-double king that he is. I believe he had one last night. If not, he's been relatively close. He's still a top 10 big in the league. You can't just have it from those guys. You got to have it for those additional. Ayo has to be better than 0 points. Kobe White has to be better than shooting. I believe he's Kobe White for a career still shoots sub 45%. Have to be better. P Will actually played pretty well. I'm not gonna lie. 16 points, had a couple plays. Things stuck Kawhi really well. If you go back and look at that game, he forced Kawhi off the ball plenty of times. Matched up with him one on one. Didn't get cooked like Zach was getting cooked by Eric Gordon. Like, no, P. Will, I have to give credit where credit is due. He stood his ground. He played good ball, hit up, created some offense for himself. That's great. But the problem with P. Will is it doesn't happen consistently. It doesn't happen consistently enough for this to be the mainstay or the common threaded topic that we have when we talk about P. Will. In fact, Pat has also said that P. Will was a bust, being the fourth pick overall, and it kind of showed it because it's not consistent there. Now, mind you, that's just probably speaking in the moment, being prisoner of the moment. But at the same time, I've also shared that same sentiment. He's just not consistent enough. It's not for the position in the time he gets to be productive. Io, despite the fact that he's still 50% from the field, which is wild. He's 50% from the field. I think he does have a good shoot, a 3 point shooting average. He is just not consistent enough, and I don't know why. Kobe, like again, doesn't shoot consistent enough. DJJ, not consistent enough. Andre Drummond, Andre freaking Drummond. Andre Drummond to come in and give you a heck of a quarter offensively, give you a bunch of boards, offensive and defensive, but would sit there and give you four fouls before you blink. I mean, this man would sit there and have a dunk on one end, and immediately afterwards, it's a foul on him. It's just like, come on, dog. What we doing? Now, some of it I think is a little ticky tack. I do think he gets picked on because he's a much bigger player, and then there's a lot of flopping that goes on in the league. I do think that he falls victim to that little scheme and game a lot. If you go watch those games, you'll see it. But at the end of the day, that's also part of being a professional. You got to know that those things are coming. You have to know that that is how the game is played, and not put yourself in a situation where you can get called for those ticky tack fouls. I hate to say it, but I said Demar. Excuse me. Drummond will have a really good game offensively, probably put up 12 quick points, right? Because he's a freight train. You can't really stop it. He's finishing around the rim well, but with him always being in foul trouble and then having what seemingly is low IQ plays, I don't want to sit there and challenge him, but it just, when you sit there and you look at it, I was like, man, this is not the moment for that, man. You're doing well. We want to keep you on the floor. It just doesn't seem to work out. Not consistent enough. We haven't even seen Marco sniff the floor. Not consistent enough. Terry time. I love Terry. I love his energy. I love what he does. Not consistent enough. Like, we don't have consistency off of our bench for us to make these type of deep runs. So now that begs the question. Since we do sit comfortably at the 10th spot, we're about 3 games above the next team. So about above the Wizards, if I'm not mistaken. So I do believe that if we split the next games, even if we split these next games, I do believe that we will have enough to definitively be a play-in team. But is that enough? Is that going to lead to us? Like, is it too little too late now for us to kind of pull it all together to make a deep playoff run? And I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say yes. We just don't have the roster construction. We don't have the shooters. If you look at the Clippers last night, this a clear point. Nicholas Batum was the leading scorer, if I'm not mistaken. He's 8 for 10 from the field. Nicholas Batum is a consistent shooter. He really is. Eric Gordon is a consistent shooter. These are their bench players, by the way. Russell Westbrook is not a consistent shooter, but he's a consistent playmaker if you let Russ be Russ. Russ is going to come with the energy. He's going to find you. If you let Russ be Russ, you're going to be open. He's going to find you some way, somehow. There's consistency there. The only inconsistency with Kawhi game is whether or not he's healthy enough to be on the floor. But when he's on the floor, he's consistent enough. He's consistent defensively. He's consistent offensively for the most part. Like, there's a deep team. That's just one example. Let's just make it to teams in the East. We don't match up well against the Bucks anymore. Why? They have more consistency than we do. The Philly. Listen, I know that we got a good win over them. We finally beat them, right? I think we're 12-1. I mean, Embiid is 12-1 against us, right? They have consistency. They have players who would start on our team on the bench. We don't have the consistency. We struggle with the Cavs. Struggled. We got 71 put on us by the Cavs. They have a deeper team. They have more consistency with their players. Even though I think Mobley has struggled at times and things of that nature with the different shifts, Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, they seem to be playing well together. Jared Allen is doing his thing. They have more consistency there. At some point, we have to admit that, hey, while we may have our big three, if this is what you want to call our big three, Zach, DeMar, and Vooch, we don't have enough consistency enough in the other places. So even with this being a good play-in team, I don't see us going far. I don't see us going far. Now, I do think we're better than Atlanta. Don't get me wrong. I do think we're better in Atlanta. I do think we're better than what's this other team? I do think we're better than. I can't say that. Obviously, we're better than Detroit and all that stuff. But as far as really tight playoff teams, I'm not. I'm struggling to come up with a scenario in which we can make a strong push and it actually makes sense. Looking at it, do I think we're better than the Raptors? I think we're. Oof, that's tough. I don't know if we're better than the Raptors. The Nets are a playoff team. Can you believe that? Do I think we have more talent than the Nets? Top to bottom, probably not. They are, man, that's tough. So like realistically, if we get into the playoffs, and by the way, the Nets sit in the six seed, the Knicks are in the fifth seed. Those are teams that I think that we've matched up with the best. The Knicks obviously in the Heat too. I think we've matched up with them the best, but they still have pieces that we don't. They have better shooters at time and positions that we don't. You know, it's just one of those things where we may not have enough at key positions coming off of our bench. We don't have the depth. I'm not talking about just all stars. I'm talking about role players who have a better shooting percentage, role players who can actually help you make plays. They just have better role players, not necessarily better stars, and that matters in today's league. Having a top to bottom team is again becoming a thing. There is no such thing as one guy completely taking you to the finals. Doesn't happen. Everyone has had help. LeBron has always had help. No matter what anyone says, he's always had some level of help. Whether if it was scheme, shooters, anything like that, he's always had some level of help. Even in 2018, you have to go back and look at it. Steph has always had help. Giannis has had help. Um, yeah, I think I just named the champions of the last decade at this point, right? Like even when Miami made the push, Jimmy Butler had considerable help. Everyone has help, right? Everyone has help from their bench and role players. We don't have that to make a strong push, right? We don't have a better bench than the Celtics, who I it was interestingly enough, like we just don't have that. We don't have a better bench than the Sixers, so we're sitting there struggling. Do I think we're still better than the Hawks? Absolutely. I'm not a Hawks. I'm not. I'm definitely not a Trey Young fan. Nothing against him, but that style of game and stuff like that, I don't see. I don't see it. But we don't have the pieces. In fact, I'll be honest with you, we don't even have the same pieces the Pacers have in certain positions because they get a little more consistency out of their players at times. They just got hit with the injury bug and things of that nature, and they're still not too far behind us. They're like 3 games behind us. And they could absolutely go on a run over their next couple games to even claim a 10th spot if we sit there and falter. So all in all, what is the point of this video? There's a lot to be done. And this really goes to show you that AK has to do a lot in the offseason to shore up certain things. If we're not going to get that consistency from P. Will, if we're not going to get that consistency from I, if we're not going to get that consistency from Kobe White, we need to go out there and either get other vets that can give us that consistency, know what to do, sit there and reinforce it. If you look at the Patrick Beverly effect, all Patrick Beverly did is come in, he did 2 things. Reinforce Billy's plan, execute it at a high level. That's all. Patrick Beverly is not going to be on anyone's list as a top point guard in the league. He's just not. Defender, maybe. Point guard, no. But he's a veteran that knows what to do and how to stay on the floor and what to do when he's on the floor. We need more of that. And I want to know what your thoughts are, man. Listen, this is not one of those things where I want to sit there and just go on a tangent and rant and talk about what we're not. I want to hear ideas of what we are. I do have some ideas of things that we can do this offseason. But in the meantime, in between time, we can't just sit there and stop playing. We are 3 games above the next team. We're going to be in the play-in. Like, we're going to be in the play-in, and that could be a time where it clicks, but it also could be one of those opportunities where if we fight to get in this play-in and we get one of this 7th to 8th seed, we could be getting smacked at the crib in the first round and be embarrassing, be even a more embarrassing loss than it had the first season, last season, and I don't want that. But I want to know what you all want. Get at me in the comments. Get at me on the lives. We will have the Chicago Bulls and the Los Angeles Lakers part 2 tomorrow. Would love to get your feedback on that one, man. Listen, if you're from the town, you know what it is. Stay safe. Peace.